Have you ever wondered how an upholstery shop fits and cuts a cushion for, say, a sofa like this? I'm getting ready to show you. Stay tuned. Right, to get started, we got to block our fabric out. Now, we've railroaded this fabric, so what I'm going to do is I usually try to allow about 2 inches on each side of the widest point, which is usually the front. And then I measure the deepest part in the back, and then to where I think it should come to in the front, and then I add 1.5 inches. So my dimensions came up that I'm going to cut my fabric 52 wide, and my measurement from the back and the widest point to the front where I want this cushion is 21.5. So I'm going to add 1.5 inches. That means I'll be cutting a block of 52 by 23. I'm laying the blocked fabric on the sofa. If there were a stripe, I'd be making sure it was lined up. I want the fabric to hang about 1/2 to 3/4 inch in front of where I think the cushion needs to finish. Using a piece of chalk or a marker, I will run it flush up against the arm to get my mark. Being a tight back, I'm going to go ahead and follow a line across the back as well. But if I were doing a sofa or a chair that had a back cushion over the top, I would not need to do this. For the thick cushion I'll be using, I like to allow about 1 inch around the edges. Once I have my top and bottom mated, I miter the corners. Okay, next I want to cut my boxing. Now, the size of your boxing is going to be determined by the type of cushion that you're using. Your normal sofa takes, usually around a 5 to 6 inch foam, depending on the builder. For me, I use a 5-inch foam, usually double crown and a wrap. So the allowances you see here are typically allowed for that. Since I'm using 5-inch, I'm going to cut my boxing 5 1/4 so that my sewn boxing will finish 4 1/4, which gives me 3/4 of an inch. So you always want to have a little bit more thickness in foam and then your Dacron. If you make it any thinner, you're just going to end up with flat looking cushions. Now, depending on what type of fabric you have left over, the key thing is to try to make sure that you have no seams on the front of your cushion. I like to measure from one side all the way across the front to the other side. And this is on cushions that I know are going to get a turn back with the zipper that comes around the sides about 5 inches. That gives me plenty of allowance for hooking in and folding back and doing all those things. So on this one I came up with 96 inches. Now, if I don't have 96 inches of fabric that I can roll through and cut, I'm going to have to piece on each side. So I may go around, let's say I've got a 50-inch front and I've got 60 inch of fabric, then I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to add about 15-20 inches on each side. The main idea is to not put a seam on your front, keep the seams on the sides up against the arms, and make sure you can get it at least to the back. In my experience, it's best to trim off this front edge. Here, I'm measuring for the zipper boxing on the back. Typically, we'll cut our zipper boxings 1.5 inches wider than the regular boxing. Now, for easy numbers, what we do on our 5 1/4 is we cut it 7, and then we split that in half. With welting on the top and bottom, the seamstress will now install the zipper boxing.